Some people create inventions that change the world. Others create inventions that change their bank account. But what happens when success comes too fast? Or when the money vanishes faster than the innovation arrived? In this episode of the Money Compendium, we're exploring 10 real inventors who rose to fortune, only to lose it all. These aren't marketers or tech moguls who bought their way into the spotlight. These are inventors. People who built their wealth with brain power, sweat, and patents. Some got duped, others got cocky, and a few just couldn't keep up with the business side of genius. Let's dive in. Number 1. Philo Farnsworth. Invented the television but died in obscurity. In 1927, a 21-year-old farm boy named Philo Farnsworth made history by transmitting the first ever fully electronic television image, a single straight line. It was simple, but it was the birth of a revolution. That revolution would become a multi-trillion-dollar global industry. Farnsworth was hailed as a genius, a prodigy. But his battle with RCA, led by media titan David Sarnoff, became a war of attrition. RCA used its legal and financial muscle to challenge his patents, drag him through the courts, and dominate the emerging TV market. Farnsworth eventually received some settlements, but not the fortune he deserved. By the time TV became a household staple, he was sidelined, depressed, and nearly forgotten. He died in 1971 with little recognition and even less money. So the man who invented one of the most central aspects of modern life died broke. A sad story, and he deserved better for helping to bring us some of our best memories. The next inventor is obscure, but at least not quite as depressing to learn about. He created a plastic empire, cashed out, and then disappeared to an island. Number 2. Earl Silas Tupper, inventor of Tupperware. Earl Tupper, a self-taught chemist and engineer, invented Tupperware in the 1940s, a line of airtight plastic containers that revolutionized food storage. But the true marketing genius was Brownie Wise, a charismatic single mother who pioneered the Tupperware party system. It exploded in popularity, and by the 1950s, Tupperware was a cultural icon. But Tupper hated being outshined. In a bitter move, he fired Wise, sold the company for $16 million in 1958, divorced his wife, and bought an island in Central America. Instead of living like a legend, Tupper withdrew from the spotlight. He died mostly forgotten, with his legacy overshadowed by the brand he created and the marketer he pushed out. Maybe not as sad, but definitely petty. Our next inventor launched the computer age with a demo that stunned the world, but his reward was silence. Number 3. Douglas Engelbart, father of the computer mouse. In 1968, Douglas Engelbart gave a presentation so ahead of its time it was dubbed the mother of all demos. In one sitting, he introduced the world to the computer mouse, hyperlinks, Windows, video conferencing, and more, technologies that would take decades to catch on. But Engelbart was a soft-spoken idealist, not a businessman. He never patented the mouse and didn't pursue financial gain. Xerox, and later Apple, would commercialize his ideas. Engelbart was honored later in life, but during the height of the tech boom, he watched others get rich on ideas he had pioneered from a quiet lab in Menlo Park. Engelbart changed the way we use computers but never cashed in. Our next inventor made one of the most famous toys in history, and barely made a cent. These stories sound unbelievable, right? People invent the backbone of billion-dollar industries and walk away with nothing. But here's the thing. Being brilliant doesn't mean you're bulletproof, especially when contracts, licensing, and business partners enter the chat. And speaking of underestimated genius, our next inventor created a cultural icon, a toy that pretty much printed money, just not for him. Number 4. George Lerner, the toy maker. George Lerner was a toy inventor in the late 1940s who had an unusual idea. Take a real potato and add plastic eyes, ears, and mouths so kids could design their own character. Toy companies thought it was strange, even wasteful. Potatoes were still scarce after World War II. Eventually, he sold the concept to a cereal company for $5,000. Later, Hasbro picked it up and transformed it into the plastic version we know today. It became the first toy ever advertised on television. It made Hasbro millions and became a household name, especially after its role in Toy Story. Lerner, however, only received a small licensing fee and faded into the background. A potato with a face made millions, just not for its creator. Now let's talk about the guy who made the very first cell phone and barely got a thank you. Number 5. Martin Cooper, inventor of the cell phone. Martin Cooper made the first ever handheld mobile phone call in 1973 while working for Motorola. The call? He rang a rival company just to rub it in. It was a brilliant moment of tech history, but Cooper, being an employee, didn't hold the patents personally. The company owned everything. He stayed in tech, launched other ventures, and became a respected voice in innovation, but never achieved billionaire status. The mobile phone became the most ubiquitous gadget on Earth, and Cooper became a trivia question. Cooper made the call but didn't get the check. Our next story? A man who took on the auto industry and paid the ultimate price. Number 6. Robert Kearns invented the intermittent windshield wiper. Kearns, a former college professor, invented the intermittent windshield wiper in the 1960s after a traumatic experience. He lost vision in one eye when a champagne cork hit him. Frustrated with wipers that didn't mimic the human blink, he created a solution. He pitched it to car companies who copied it without credit. Kearns sued Ford and Chrysler and won millions, but the years of legal battles consumed his life. His marriage ended, his health declined, and he died in relative obscurity. His story became the 2008 film Flash of Genius, a fitting, bittersweet title. Kearns won the lawsuit, but lost his life to it. Up next, a kitchen wizard whose face was once on every infomercial, and whose fortune didn't stick around. Number 7. Ron Popeil, inventor of the Showtime rotisserie and more. Ron Popeil was the king of the infomercial. A born pitchman, he created the Pocket Fisherman, Chop-O-Matic, and the famous Showtime rotisserie oven. Set it and forget it became a national catchphrase. For a while, Ron was everywhere, building a multi-million-dollar empire. But as the infomercial wave died and consumer habits shifted, his fortune dwindled. Licensing deals went south. He was worth $200 million at his peak, but died in 2021 with his financial legacy uncertain. Ron built gadgets and a legacy, but ended up lost in obscurity. Now let's meet a man whose car company nearly toppled the big three. Number 8. Preston Tucker, creator of the Tucker 48 car. Tucker was a visionary in the 1940s who wanted to revolutionize the auto industry. His Tucker 48 included groundbreaking features: safety glass, a rear engine, fuel injection, and a third headlight that turned with the car. But the big three automakers and political allies saw him as a threat. Accused of fraud, he went through a brutal legal process, and though acquitted, his company collapsed. Only 51 cars were ever made. Tucker died penniless and heartbroken, though his story lived on through the 1988 movie Tucker, The Man and His Dream. Tucker dreamed big and paid dearly. But our next inventor's dream was just as big, a car that ran on water. Number 9. Stanley Meyer invented the water fuel cell engine. In the 1980s, Stanley Meyer claimed to invent a car that could run on water by splitting hydrogen from water molecules using very little energy. The implications were world-changing. Investors swarmed, but critics and scientists were skeptical. After lawsuits and fraud accusations, he was ordered to repay funds. Then, in 1998, he died suddenly after a restaurant meeting. His brother claimed he yelled, "They poisoned me." Conspiracy theories took over. To this day, no one has proven Meyer's device worked, but he died with no fortune, and his prototype vanished. Meyer's tech could have saved the world, or maybe fooled it. But this final story? It's a tragic end for one of the greatest minds in history. Number 10. Nikola Tesla, inventor of AC power, radio tech, and more. Nikola Tesla is now a legend, the archetype of the tragic genius. Born in 1856, he gave us alternating current, radio, remote control, wireless power, and countless other innovations. But Tesla was eccentric, trusting, and terrible with money. While Thomas Edison profited, Tesla gave away his patents. He was exploited, mocked, and eventually abandoned. In his later years, he lived in hotels, feeding pigeons and talking to himself. When he died in 1943, he was penniless. Today, his name is everywhere, but the wealth he deserved never found him. From Mr. Potato Head to wireless energy, these inventors reshaped our world, but many paid a steep price. They remind us that genius alone isn't enough. You need protection, persistence, and a plan. If you're building something big, learn from these stories. Be brilliant, but also be prepared. So what do you think? Did life just throw these people a rough hand, or did they focus too much time on inventing and too little time on investing?